the brainchild of this, their computer decided that it was going to reset itself on everything. So I completely forgot where we were and what we were talking about.
We were talking about how great your team is, and how your dude beat Brett Hall's record for fastest bulldog to their third fastest bulldog to 50 points.
Yep, third fastest. Doesn't hold the record, but 36 games, I believe, and Brett Hall did it in 37. It's just fun to watch this line as sophomores. They're all sophomores. We have an all freshman line that we're getting depth scoring from. The whole team has just seemed to come together. As much fun though as I am having watching this team, I'm still not quite convinced. Not saying St. Cloud is a bad team. They've been playing much better. I think last year, as we were talking about, if they were healthy, they would have been a much better team. But there's just certain aspects of their game that they don't do it consistently enough. Friday night, yes, they were very consistent, and I don't know if it was cut off as I was saying this or not, but Brett Larson said there was no room. They felt suffocated. Saturday's game, not quite that much defensive suffocation of St. Cloud. St. Cloud was getting opportunities, but UMD ended up pulling it off on the end. And one of the things that I think helps this team is the special teams units are all the same lines. Like the first power play unit is our first line and our first defensive pairing. You don't need to do anything different, so you don't get out of rotation. Shorthandedly, the plants are out there. Shagabe's out there. You get the shorthanded opportunities. So you're not really throwing off on your line changes from power play to shorthanded to extra attacker, anything like that. And I think that really does help.
I mean, that's what.
Sorry, the music got loud again. I think he's sitting right next to a speaker.
Maybe he's on top of the speaker.
I think there's one right above his head. I don't remember where the speakers are in there, but
he's got to make him search for it.
So he's got to unmute him.
That'll be entertaining.
I was saying that Western power play back when we had Frank Gallant and Warad, and then we had Adrid on the blue line with Bolt. I mean, we didn't have to change anything though. That was just our first line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which really helped us that year too. So,
yeah, and I mean, Ty Hansen, he's done a really good job. And then, I mean, Joey Pierce, he was good, but he's really stepped up this year, especially being, I believe he's the captain for us. He's really stepped up and taken that leadership role and showing these kids around. But even having the kind of the class lines, so you have the PPS line, first line, and then you have your all freshman line. Then you can kind of mix guys up, but they build that chemistry they can move forward with that. And then Guyon, he's been solid.
Yeah.
There's not a lot wrong with his game. He's still, every once in a while, he'll make mistakes like he did last year, but they're far and few between.
What is it?
It's not like last year.
Is it back-to-back goalie of the weeks for him, or is it his second in like 3 weeks?
Might be second in 3 weeks.
Because he is the player of the week again this week.
So player of the week was Plant.
Guyan was goalie of the week.
Goalie of the week.
Yeah.
I would think.
I'm trying to figure out if it was. I know he's been it recently as well, but I don't remember if it was last week or if it was before then. And I don't really feel like.
I'll look it up. You talk and I'll look it up.
Yeah, no, wait, we froze for a little bit. We think we got to figure it out. My computer hates me, and I hate it sometimes too, and that's okay. But we're back.
We
We're
think.
going. We're running. There's a new link. It'll just be in 2 parts because I'm not gonna fix it. I probably should. But that's more computer work than I know how to do or want to do.
Yeah, second in 3 weeks because Lat Cozy got it last weekend.
Let's-
But Guyon has it 3 times since the start of the season.
Yeah, no, he's definitely improved in his second season, his full time taking over the net this year. Going kind of the opposite way of our goaltender.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
and we talked about this last weekend too. It's not necessarily on them because you can have the best goalie in the world, and if your team defense sucks, there's not much they can do on certain goals. But if you have the best team defense, an average goalie can look better. It's just a matter of those games where your team doesn't have it. Can they steal you a game? And I think Hampton still has that. It's just he's not given a shot. Right now, he's just getting shelled.
I think I don't know. It's a mixed bag. I think he still seems to have the same weakness that he had last year. If pucks are kind of around him, I don't feel like he has a solid either feel for where the pucks are, or he doesn't have the I'm gonna get it off the ice mentality that I think he could have or would serve him better. Um, and he's also not getting the same defensive combination that he was getting last year. Guys are kind of more reaching for pucks as opposed to blocking out or boxing out in certain situations. I think Western's created just as many like bad rebounds or loose pucks that other teams have gotten to as he has himself. But his rebound control is not as good as it was last year. Um, like we saw in kind of the national championship game with a couple of goals and a couple of goals this weekend, if you're able to sit on just outside of the crease and wait for skates and feet to get tangled up around the puck, there's opportunities to put goals in on him. And it's really just the one downside to his game. And on Saturday, he did get beat on a couple shots from far out that I think he would like to have back. But it's just, I would like to see him improve a little bit more on the greasy kind of goals. Be a little more assertive when going for diving onto the puck, not just kind of figuring out where the goal line is and waiting for the puck to come to him, but actually like get in there and get on the puck, even if it's dropping your stick and grabbing the puck with your blocker hand or something. Like it just too many of those pucks are getting away from him and then ending up behind him.
And I also think that the lack of size for Western is not helping that because they're not tying guys up in front of the net as much as they used to, which is going to create more opportunities to get those greasy goals. So
Yeah, they're a lot more smaller, faster team than they have been in the past. But I will say that Henrik has definitely been throwing his size around a little bit the last couple weekends, and to see him going, he could definitely be that physical type of player that Washi was. And I think with his size, he'd be really good around the net front, like Tim was as well. But I think he has maybe a little bit more upside as far as a distance shooter. But I could see him kind of filling into that same mold if he had the same mentality that Washi had. I think it'd be a really good role for Henriks. And if he just doesn't put his brother on the IR, that'd be probably great too. But I already did it, so what can we do now?
what do you think that conversation was like in the house afterwards?
Oh, mom was pissed. Mom was just, how dare you treat your little brother like that?
I mean, he's probably been told his whole life to take it easy on his little brother. Clearly, it hasn't stuck.
Well, you know what? I would do the same thing to my brother. I wouldn't try to injure him, but I'm gonna go after.
All right, he didn't try to injure him.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. Like he
Much like
obviously wasn't trying to injure him. He was just making a hockey play.
Yeah, and the injury was not okay. It was on the hit. It was on the play, but he wasn't knocked out of the game as a direct result of the contact to his head or neck area. It was the way they both fell to the ice after that caused the injury, and it was a lower body injury.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the conversation between the two of them, both being competitors and playing Division One hockey, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I know you weren't trying to do it, just unfortunate result." Like,
I mean,
I would do the same thing. We're both competitive here. We're trying to win the game for our team. I wouldn't expect you to do anything differently, whether it's my brother or not. You look at like Mikko and Saku Koivu. They would face off against each other. I mean, partially on purpose just for that, but they didn't care. They were brothers. They're gonna compete. It's I'm gonna beat you from either side, and then hey, you know what? In the summer, we're gonna go hang out in Finland.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure that looking at it, they would probably do that same play every time. That if not, brother. I mean, brothers sometimes compete harder than anybody else on the rink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe there's a conversation like, well, if you had been on my team, we wouldn't have been in this situation, and it's certainly plausible either way. But it did. Hopefully, Tanner is healing up just fine, and will find his way back into the lineup. I think he's out for quite a bit too, depending on how what the injury was and how it heals. But St. Cloud did play your Bulldogs and did not have great success. I think Miami was the team off this week. They come up to Kalamazoo to play Western, and I'm probably more concerned with this series than I have been in a while. If we're gonna be honest about it.
So quick side note, St. Thomas going into the third is up 3-1 on St. Cloud.
Oh.
So St. Cloud not having the greatest few 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, it's always tough when you end up playing 3 games that quickly and you're not necessarily used to it anymore. You know, a lot of people will say that the USH schedule is closer to maybe a pro style schedule, but you get used to that 2 games a weekend and your body finds a way to not necessarily like these random weekday games or the off schedules that we've seen quite a bit to start these seasons here recently.
Yeah, but I mean, not like they were going really that far to do this.
No, but there's still you get in that rotation of game, probably day off, practice, travel day, morning skate game, and now it's, you know, they didn't have to go very far, but it was travel, game, travel, day off, practice, or travel back to, you know, travel down. I don't know if they would have left super early this morning and then morning skated when they got there or what they would have done, but it's still a different schedule than you're used to. And if you're traveling down today, you know, they might have had to get up earlier than their normal schedule would have been anyway. So there's still
I don't know.
As the traveling team, I think there was a little bit more breakup of the schedule for St. Thomas or for St. Cloud than St. Thomas.
I don't necessarily. It's I mean, to get to St. Thomas from St. Cloud, it's probably about 90 minutes. So I don't know how much of a difference if they left today versus last night it would have been.
I'm really just more going that it's a mix up of their schedule, whether they left yesterday or today.
You get into a routine. I get what you're saying. Like you have your routine set and how it goes, and then they just kind of throw this curveball at you. But anyway, we should touch on the other 2 series from last weekend because we haven't talked about that yet. We've just talked about our own 2.
Yeah.
North Dakota absolutely spanks Omaha on Friday, and then well, actually spanks them the whole weekend. 4-1 on Saturday. What did I see? 7-2
on
So
Friday, 4-1 on
11
Saturday.
outscores them 11-3 on the weekend. That's a tough weekend for the Mavericks.
I mean, it's not much
That's how
different
you.
than 9-4
That's how you want to do it.
that Denver outscored Western. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know where to put this Omaha team either. Like I said, they have a lot of college, like Canadian college players and CHL players. I think they're still trying to figure out how to adjust to the American college system and rules and play style, and then to throw in the fact that you're playing in the NCHC in conference play. Maybe there's going to be more adjustment than we thought, and that they were, the non-conference schedule was a little bit easier or better for them to adjust to, but now it's conference play is always different than the early season games. But they do still have like Cozy in the back, and he is always a weapon. Oh, I guess we do have to make a couple corrections now that I'm thinking about it, because I just mentioned like Cozy's name. So Hampton ineligible for the World Juniors because his birthday was too early or too late last year, whatever it was. But he's aged out for World Juniors, and it's also been announced that Western is not sending players to the Sprengler Cup anyway, so he won't be participating in either tournament. Which, honestly, with the way the team's playing, maybe it's a good decision. Try and get these dudes to find some sort of cohesiveness as a team. They do have the holiday tournament in Milwaukee and then a quick turnaround against Notre Dame. But they would have been only missing 2 players. But with injuries piling up and everything else that's going on, I think it's probably a good call to hold players back. And I think Michigan State is also holding players back from the Sprengler Cup. Not that it matters for what we talk about on here, but they have a large majority, I guess a good number that are eligible for the World Juniors that they don't want to be spread too thin over the holiday break for the GLI and other games, and with the World Juniors and Sprengler Cup. So I believe they are also holding players back.
Yeah, and I mean, World Juniors, that's a little tougher to tell kids, hey, you're not going to this, because it is a huge deal. It's the arguably the best hockey tournament that there is, as far as international at least. You have the best of the best from every country, and these kids are motivated. They're not getting paid, in a sense, now with NIL, sure, but they're not the pros. They're not getting paid. They have motivation to increase their draft stock if they're not drafted already, but just contract negotiation, whatever they have coming up. And they just seem to care a lot more. So I'm super excited for it to come up. But I understand holding them back. I just hate that teams would potentially do that to the kids, because how many times do you get to represent your country in something that has been around?
Like I said, I don't think there's anybody eligible for Western for the World Juniors. So I don't think that's even, like, Hampton's too old.
Yeah.
Ty was the only other teenager in the national title game for Western, and I think even his birthday is hit where he's 20 and is ineligible now, because you have to be 19 essentially this year. If you're still 19 and your birthday's before January 1st, 2026, you're eligible. So I think both of those guys would be ineligible for World Juniors if they were expected, like, on within the list of players. The Sprengler Cup is the one where you wouldn't necessarily be you could represent your country, but you could also represent, I think there's an NCAA team, which is what you see a lot of the conversation being about, and speculation about who's going to be where and what team. And there was some thought that Owen Michaels might be considered for that, and Hampton Slukinski would be considered for that. But again, Western's deciding to hold players back from that tournament. And the player pool for that seems to be much deeper and wider. Trey Augustine, I think, is expected to lead the way as far as goaltenders from Michigan State for that, and he was the #1 goaltender for the World Junior team last year that Hampton backed up and took a couple of games from during last season's World Juniors. And they are also. I guess Augustine wouldn't be playing because, like I said, I think Michigan State is also holding players back from the Spengler Cup.
And this is just me not paying attention. Is this the first year that they're doing the Spengler Cup?
I don't think it's the first year. I think it might be the first year in a while, and I think it's the first year with the NCAA team.
Okay.
And Paul says there is a team representing Canada, and the NCAA team is not dependent on nationality. Yeah, I was trying to make that point. I don't think I did very well, but attempted to.
Okay. Interesting.
First year in a long time is what Paul is saying.
Okay, that would explain why I'm just like, I don't know, this is the first time I'm really hearing about it. Like, I knew it's been talked about this year, but just it had no context.
Yeah, so North Dakota and Omaha, they got their rivalry going again. North Dakota took strong control of that one. Still not entirely sure where North Dakota is as a team. They still seem to kind of go back and forth. They split with your team last week, or the week before they trounced Omaha, but had some other non-conference struggles. Split with Clarkson. I think split with Minnesota.
North Dakota? Yeah. They split with Minnesota.
I think that has more to do with other conferences are now catching up because of NIL and the transfer portal than North Dakota getting worse.
North Dakota kind of does. They do this weird thing where their non-conference schedule, they'll bounce back and forth, and they'll really turn it up in conference play. They're going through a transition of their own with their new coaching staff. Again, it was an assistant who got promoted, but I don't know exactly where they are just yet. We do know that Duluth is a much better team, so splitting with them kind of says they're on the road to recovery. Pair that with with 2 strong outings against Omaha, I think it puts them in a good spot. I'm just not entirely sold on them yet, just like I'm not 100% sold on Western, who's kind of seems to have retreated back to their middle of the road starts, and has to build on something and really start putting games together in a positive and meaningful way. And then ASU and Colorado College, those were some decent games. I think ASU was down 3-0 at one point to Colorado College and fought back to force overtime and ended up winning in the shootout. And then Colorado College won on Saturday by a score of 3-1.
I think Colorado College they needed to at least get a win to build a little confidence after what happened last weekend with them getting swept.
Yeah. And another team that is kind of in a weird spot too. They should, they lost a huge part of their leadership core a couple years ago just because they couldn't keep 5-year guys with the way the university is set up and not having those grad programs. So they ended up losing a bunch of guys in the transfer portal a couple years ago. I don't think they lost too many this year. So you would kind of think that they're starting to put their core back together and they could see a resurgence, but they haven't gotten back to that really good defense they had in their deep NCHC tournament run. And they have Denver coming up in their gold pan game series thing. I don't understand that tournament or that trophy system, how it works. Just play one game for the damn tournament. Or or make it count for all 4 games. I don't get it.
Whoever wins the season series, and then you know what? If you split, like just even split, whoever had it last keeps it.
And I think
that's all you need to do.
Yeah, but no, they do that, but it's just the one series that counts. I think so. If they split this series, whoever had it last year keeps it. But like
it should be all 4 games from the season.
Either all 4 or just 1.
Yeah.
Like do and I brought this up before, but like Michigan and Michigan State, they play one game. Yeah, they play one game for a trophy in Detroit, in the duel for the D. And it's a stupid looking trophy and a stupid name, I'm well aware, but they do one out of their 4 games.
That one.
They do one out of their 4 games.
They selling that on that game on OnlyFans or what?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to it. I don't care about it.
Probably BX10 Plus.
Paul's saying it goes on all 4. I don't remember. I think I asked at one point, but it should be all 4 if it's not. But I've also heard that it's only one series. Like so I don't know.
Yeah.
And the way they talk about it, like if there's a split, they'll say, "Oh, it goes back to Denver this year," and they won't even mention it on the other series. But what else we got?
Well, we're gonna go to this week. I went back because I was like, "Oh, we didn't talk about the other 2 series." So let's see. You brought up Miami Western. You said you were worried about that.
Yeah.
With the gold pan. We have Omaha up in Duluth. That one, I think that series, like we said, we don't know what Omaha has really, and I don't think they do either because of so many new guys. But they've been playing decent hockey. I don't think it's going to be an easy sweep. I'm going to do the whole thing like definitely covering my bases. I think it could be a split, but I also, with the way that we've been playing, I could see us sweeping Omaha and them being swept back-to-back weekends, which, sorry, but it's definitely possible. And then Arizona State, North Dakota. Paul can chime in on the chat about his Sun Devils, but North Dakota, they're, even with the coaching change, they haven't been a bad team. It's just I think Barry got canned because the fan base there is so rabid and they can't handle not being the top. So it's like an SEC football coach. If you're not in the championship game or winning the championship for at least the conference every year, you got about 3 years and you're out. Barry, he always had his team competitive. They were there. It's just sometimes one and done games, things don't go your way. And North Dakota's proving that they're still a solid team. It's still Barry's team for the most part, for the kids that he brought in, I think. Can't hear you, Wes.
I was muted because I was doing things that didn't need to be done into a microphone. Anyway, that's
an odd statement.
I burped. I didn't want to burp into the microphone. All right.
You could have just said that. Instead, you made it weird.
You made it weird by reacting. Oh no, the North Dakota had a large number of guys jump into the portal last year. Livanovich, who was the other one that ended up going with him to BC. There was a third player I think who ended up going to Michigan. Top talent guys that they were expecting. They were kind of counting on. They also had the one player who was expected to go to the portal if it hadn't been for them promoting the assistant coach, so that saved them at least a couple players. And I've gotten to be under the assumption that I'm not entirely sure how many players, like I guess yes, the head coach like signs off on guys and is the final say in like scholarship and offer being made and sent or whatever. But I think it's more of the assistant coaches who are doing a lot more of the scouting and recruiting and things of that nature. So we could say, yeah, they're Barry. Some of them are Barry's guys, but it's really just Barry just said, okay, I accept your word that this guy's going to fit the program and it will fit my coaching style. But they're really recruited and looked for by the assistant coaches along the way. So maybe
But
that's
then,
a misstatement, and we need to even rethink, Barry's early success with the team that we all thought or we all stated as being Hextall's. Maybe they were Barry's guys, and he deserves more credit for that first championship than a lot of people were willing to give him. And he's coaching guys that he may not have necessarily himself recruited, but again is relying on his assistant coaches to understand the players he's looking for, the system he wants to coach, and that they're going to coach if they take over certain aspects, like if they take over the PK or the power play, face offs, like whatever it might be.
and you brought up exactly what I was going to bring up was we look at coaching changes, and when teams have success immediately after a coaching change, we go, oh, well, that was the previous coach's team. Now I think, when Barry took over, it was a little different. Yes, you still had the same rules. Like if the coach gets let go, guys can leave. Like the commits can leave. Um, guys can transfer. But I think it's a little bit different now with the transfer rules. I would have to go and look. I'm not going to do that right now.
Later, Paul. Have a good night. Thanks for
I
stopping in.
think it was more Haxtell's team than Barry's at that point. But now moving forward, it could be right. But at the same time, Barry was an assistant coach, so you're right. And those guys might have wanted to stay because, hey, he recruited us. We really liked what he had to say. Now he's our head coach. We want to play for him.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that none of us will know.
And maybe thinking that way might explain some of why we see sometimes such quick turnarounds. In the case of, even in the case of like Western, like, they weren't bad under Andy Murray, but they seem to have a little bit more success under First because he might have been out there like scouting guys and thinking of like, okay, this guy plays well in our system. How would I coach him different versus what, whatever Andy Murray wanted to do or does? Barry had Barry brought his guys in. Hextall was the head coach. Because I think, that was the thing that was said too, that Barry was a great recruiter, right? And knew how to scout talent and find talent. So maybe he was getting good guys in that were coachable, and Hextall had the right system for those guys. And then maybe there was a difference of opinion on whether those guys fit the way that Barry coached the last few years, or even to, like you said, it wasn't like they were coaching bad teams or getting bad results. They were constantly in the top of the conference. They had deep runs in the NCHC tournament. They were constantly in the national championship, but getting bounced in the first round is not what North Dakota fans wanted or expect. And finally, they got loud enough, and you and I were kind of reading the writing on the wall a little bit before most people were.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the the world of sports is that you get into those one and done type tournaments. You can make it great, sweet. What do you do once you get there? Well, you can play the best game ever, and all of a sudden a puck takes a weird bounce off a stanchion or something, ends up right in front of your net and goes in.
Or,
And you
a
lose the
random
game.
puck from the corner can be thrown to the middle of the ice and deflect off your own defenseman and past you in a 5-5 overtime game and could be the game winner, and you lose.
Yeah, and it's like,
don't know anything about that. Wouldn't
Well,
know a goddamn thing about that, would we, Mike?
No, we wouldn't. Absolutely not. No clue.
but the thing is, people, they're gonna look at it and be like, oh, well, you didn't make it past this round. Well, you know what? Look at the game. Look at what happened.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily coaching anything. It's just a bad bounce.
It's okay. North Dakota also did not make it past that first round, and I stuck around for that misery of a game. And that was the game where the player ended up hurting himself diving for to protect an empty puck net, or an empty net puck when the game was already out of hand and they were losing.
Nut, huh?
Yep.
Empty not.
Yep.
Not.
Yep.
No, I think you're hitting it on the money with Brad Berry there. I think for a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily pay as close attention to hockey and more football, I think it's the James Franklin situation. He can get them there, but it always seems in that big game they're down by 3 points and they just can't find that bounce for them. They can't get that field goal. So I mean, if you looked at the way Penn State played this week, and they finally figured it out. So I think it's the same thing going on in North Dakota with the hockey programs. Those coaches are figuring it out, and the team's playing like a team.
Mm. And I mean, yes, there are different situations where the coaching change is needed, but it does take a while to bring the program back. And then you can look at that and be like, okay, yeah, it was something with coaching. University of Minnesota, for the most part, was Don Lucia. He had a great run as the head coach. Kind of tapered off towards the end. People are like, okay, I can't remember if he got fired or if he just stepped down. Motzko goes from St. Cloud to Minnesota. His first couple years were a little rough. People are complaining down here in the cities, like, what are we doing? Why did we hire this guy? And I'm like, just give it time. This dude knows how to coach and how to build a program with what he did at St. Cloud. Took him 2, 3, 4 years. All of a sudden, they were brought back to relevance. You look at how many players he's put in the NHL recently. Now, this year, they are really struggling, which I'm completely happy about. But people are starting to question again. I'm like, it happens. You lost how many guys over the last 2 years? Yes, you do have to try and reload, but sometimes it doesn't take that time. And even last year, we were questioning, how long does Sandlin have? Do they give him a longer leash? I wasn't as much, but Wes was posing me that question, and I'm like, I think he has a little bit longer than most people. And sure enough, we're 10-2. It didn't take long to turn. We had 3, 4 rough years. They kind of middle of the pack, little bottom of the pack. But it's like, yeah,
I mean, but every time someone brings up that question, you can just point at the trophy case and say, I've got 2 right there, you know?
He's got 3.
Three. He's got 3. I mean, sorry, I underestimated him. He's got 3 trophies. Are you really going to question what he's doing? So sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you want it to, but he's going to figure it out eventually. He's a good coach. So,
oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. Even if people were to start to chirp about First, it's like, guess who's the defending national title winners? Like, look at the trophy case. Look at what I've done since I've been here.
I mean, only coach in Western Michigan history that has won a national championship. So,
and the only coach in Western history to win a regular season conference championship.
Yeah.
But I think the point I was more making with Sandlin wasn't so much that they were in the middle of the road. I think it was more just how many players they were losing year after year, or losing those big name guys. I think was more to maybe some of it, and that may not. And as we're getting into, like, that may not always be on Sandlin if he's also taking the word of, you know, that recruiting staff. We think that NCAA coaches, for the most part, are kind of in charge of they're in charge of a lot more than an NHL coach. An NHL coach is there to coach the team. Maybe he has input on which players he'd like to have, or who he would like to try and trade for if they're available, or you know, draft picks or free agents or things like that. All of those decisions go through the head coach in the NCAA world, right? He may take recommendations or observations from other guys, but he's still the one who has to sign off on it. Clearly, they were getting decent players. They were getting good, high-quality players. Maybe he's getting more players suited to what he wants. And maybe there was a conversation with his coaching staff and recruiting staff about, you know, what we're looking for, how we're going to move forward as a team to get back to where they wanted to be. And it's certainly working. I think the only thing now to see is it sustainable until the end of the season? Because that was a big thing too. Like, he would be not middle of the road, but solid in the early part of the season, but you'd really see his teams turn it on at the end of the season. And we even saw that last year, and I think that's what separated the difference and really said, okay, he's on the right path this year as opposed to where he had been the first couple of years before that. You know, the years where they lost Howard, Spicer, a couple of the other.
Biondi was one that ended up leaving after he missed a year with double shoulder surgery.
Was it Kaiser who only played a year for you guys? Wyatt?
Yeah, Wyatt, and then he went Blackhawks.
Yeah, went to the pros. So there was like a year where like they just lost a bunch of guys and had to replace, and the team got younger and younger and younger. This is really the first time that he's gotten a bunch of guys back and they can use their experience from being young, again, avoiding injuries, building up that experience in showing that they're leaders of the team even though they're younger. So I think they're in a really good spot, and it'll be interesting to see how they play at the end of the year and if they can keep that going.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. I'm ready to go.
All right. I think we got through everything. Paul said he's, you know, it depends on how or which ASU team shows up, whether or not they'll have success over North Dakota. He also said that Duluth should sweep if they don't get goalied.
Yep.
Possible. But
yeah, I know what that feeling's like.
Yeah, we know that one too.
Yeah, we've gotten goalied a couple times when Person was in Miami.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a goalie that used to play for UMD, but
Shep Daddy?
No, Fancy goalie does harder than Shep did.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing I want to talk about before, even though we're going to be a little bit longer than an hour with part one, but, and Mike, this might apply to our buddy Schatsley here. Did we get a real look at Hampton last year? And, you know, he's split 50-50 for 3/4 of the season. He goes to the World Juniors, gets a couple starts, but Augustine is the main goalie in the World Juniors. He does win his last 10 games with Western, some of them being extremely close. Goes down early in a few games, and it's really the offense that kind of pulls them through a few of those games and steals the win on some walk-off goals. Goes to the World Championships as a backup goaltender, so he's kind of hidden there. And I'm not trying to say this as like to downgrade him in any way, shape, or form. Do we have a legit opinion of him based on what we've seen? And are these just sophomore season struggles, or is there legit concerns? Because he's giving up a large number of goals in some of these games. I think multiple 5+ nights. Um,
Um,
and
I mean, I
and
would
again,
say
those weak increase goals that I think he's really got to figure out how to limit those.
I'd say we've got a pretty decent idea of what his potential is. I don't know if we have an idea of what his average is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. We know where his
When
ladder ends. We don't know what rung he's on.
yeah, when the team is in front of them and they play good and they, tie up guys in front of the net and they block shots and they don't give up backdoor opportunities, he's going to make that save. But when the team is not doing all those things, he struggles. You know?
Yeah, and I guess a little bit to my point too is last year he was put in the best possible spot to succeed last year. You had Cam go out for the first 3 quarters of the year, whatever it ended up being. He would play the Friday night game. He would get an idea of kind of tendencies of the team they were playing. He would kind of be a scout and a player at the same time. He would feed information to Hampton, like, hey, this is what I'm seeing out there. They're getting net front. Our guys are keeping them off of you. Keep lanes clear. And we also had a defense that was only sometimes allowing like 3 shots a period. We were holding teams to like under 15 shots on a pretty regular basis. So save percentage wise, I don't think our save percentages were super duper high all the time. They might have been like low 90s, but it was 1 goal on 10 shots. So they were making 9 saves and giving up 1. Or like I said, some of the later games they realize that if you get in front of him, the pucks will kind of sit in places that you can get your stick to. He's not necessarily the strongest covering the puck or the most decisive, and if he should play it, if he should cover it, when to reach for it, or things of that nature.
I think it may have to do with, like, yes, he was playing every game at the end of last year, but how he's adjusting to being the everyday goalie versus splitting time. Where, I mean, Guyon is the opposite. He was basically splitting time with Clayton Knapp last year, right? I think Guyon started 20 some games. Knapp had like 17, which I think I brought it up last week. Some article or whatever said, well, Guyon was injured last year. And I'm like, how did he still start the majority of the games while he was injured? Like,
Yeah.
your logic is, I don't remember him being injured.
I think he was at the beginning of the year.
It might have been.
Or if he was, it was like a very short period of time.
Yeah, it was a very, very short period of time. Because I think Sandy, and part of it, I think had to do with some tournament. Because Sandy had to go in. I think we were playing Bemidji or somebody. But anyway, Guyon, he's adjusted kind of the opposite to being the number one goalie here in year 2 versus Hampton now not having that day to kind of maybe look at the team that he's going to be facing, seeing what they're doing. He's going in day 1 where Guyon's adjusted differently. And that's also different than like Cozy or a Imberco, where they're coming in day 1 and they are the starter day 1. What you're getting freshman year. They can improve on that. So it's just an adjustment period. I think it's too early to react to how Hampton's playing. It, we're not even halfway through November yet. We're 12 games in. There's still a lot of season to go. Let's just see how he reacts moving forward. Yes, earning points in the conference is huge at the start of the year, just as it is at the end of the year. It's a lot easier to take losses later in the year if you build that lead early. But I think he just needs to adjust a little bit. And yeah, you're right. That team in front of him, way different than last year. So he just needs to get used to them too.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not again.
just a recipe that's going to take time.
I'm not trying to be overly critical or negative on him. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a great goalie.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely certainly has flashes. I'm just making sure. I think the expectations were set extremely high this year for Western, and the again, it's results versus process, right? We set our expectations for the results that we had last year without understanding the process this year. And that's all I'm like, maybe we need to give it like not be as hard on him and I get, like you said, allow him to develop and not expect last year's results for this team. Now, can they get there? Can they figure it out? I have no doubt that they can. Again, like I said, First has been pretty steady at 6-4, 6-4 and or 6-3-1, 5-4-1 to start seasons. So we're not they're not necessarily outside of where they've existed in the past and still made runs at the NCAA tournament or even and finished decently in the conference. I think it's going to be a lot tighter this year, but getting some points would be big. And just seeing him improve like in those net front battles is really I think the one glaring weakness that I would like for this year to be his biggest improvement for me personally. Just watching again, I know nothing. I didn't play goalie. I know what I see and I know what I watch, and where the majority of his goals come from are pucks in the crease that should be covered or that a defenseman needs to like take responsibility over and like physically block a player out and get the damn thing down the ice.
Yeah, and I think you kind of nailed it perfectly. Where, make another football analogy. People here in the Twin Cities, it's like, oh, Lions fans, now that they're winning, they're acting like they're all high and mighty. Like, come on, act like you've been there before. And it's like they haven't been there before. And for Western fans, you have these expectations now, and people are gonna be like, well, whoa, calm down, like act like you've been there before. Like, don't always have these expectations. But you guys haven't been there before. So there are people that are going to be now having this super high standard of excellence that don't understand. It's a really, really, really tough task to go back to back in anything, conference or anything, especially in the best conference in the nation. I every time I tell my dad, he's kind of shocked, and I'm like, "No, Dad, seriously, this is the best conference in the nation. There's no two ways about it."
I mean, I think one, there's only been 4 teams who have won the conference regular season. It's been cycled between like 3 teams, but they haven't necessarily done it back to back too often. I think Denver and North Dakota might each have like a back to back, but one of them is
The
shared year. So
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily super 100% count. But for the most part, it's shuffled between, and then the number of teams that have won the NCHC, for what used to be the Frozen Face-Off. I don't know if they're still sticking with that name, or the conference tournament. Has come from anywhere in the lineup, and not a lot of teams have even repeated that.
yeah.
I think the closest we've come to like a repeat was when Duluth won it from the 5 seed, and then the next year St. Cloud won it from the 5 seed, and they had just played.
And it was a championship game both years.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I think, like you said, it's still kind of early to tell. I just wanted to think, like, I think we put Hampton a couple steps above where he is in his development, and we're seeing that, maybe we don't change the top of the ladder, but he is maybe he's on the 3rd rung instead of the 6th rung or the 5th rung where
I do think it's a carryover.
I mean, also he's now the guy.
Yeah.
Before, when he started, they always had Cam. If he started playing bad, they could always say, Cam, go back in there, lock it down.
Yeah.
And we had that figured out. Now you're it, man. You're the guy, and we've basically got nobody behind you.
Yeah, because I don't. I mean, this weekend,
Not to talk bad about the other guys, but
I don't know if Moffitt dressed this weekend. And if he did, he was, I guess, in the third backup spot because he wasn't on the bench. Larson was on the bench, working the door. So if he was anywhere, he would have been like near the player tunnel, which makes him third string goaltender. So yeah, I don't know their goalie situation, but
yeah,
right now it seems like it's
I
all
think
Hampton.
It's just I think that's a combination of now he's the guy and the team is not playing as good together as they did last year, and so when you get all that, you give up more goals. But I think they'll figure it out, and I think he'll get back to where he was. So I'm not concerned.
No, I have all the faith in the world that he is an outstanding player and is the right dude to have in net for this team. And some guys need to step up and fill some of the spots left by some of the culture guys that we lost. But there's still a lot of season left, and we'll see how it all shakes out at the end. Because, the process is the process, and we trust the process. The results will come.
Thanks, Philly.
As every coach has ever said.
Yeah. 76ers, trust the process.
All right, the 76ers had like the worst process ever. But I think even Firsch has said the process is the process, and trust the process.
Hey, but they patented trust the process.
They did, and
I think
that patent needs to be reworked and looked over a few ways.
I think Embiid, his nickname is the process, and it's like, yeah, that's not a good nickname.
Fun fact, patent law wise, the pencil with the attached eraser does not have a patent because they work equally well as separate entities as they do together. Just so you know.
Why the hell do you know that?
Why or how?
Random
I don't
facts with Wes.
Yeah.
Random facts with Wes. There we go.
So there you go.
Now we need like the reading rainbow, like the more you
know. Yeah.
The more you know.
Yep. Just lobbing softballs. I'm hitting home runs. What can I say? A little patent knowledge for you out there. All right. I think on that note, we need to end this son of a bitch. Before one of us says another stupid thing, that mostly being this guy.
You.
All right. Pucks on net. Good things happen. Like go horns and fight songs. Until the next episode, he's Mike. Down there's a Mike. I'm not a Mike, but I got a Mike. We're gone. Bye.